Hi everyone and welcome back to Rachel's Enchanting Cakes. Now for today's content, I'm going to be showing you how to make this Christmas Gonk mini cake. So he is made out of cake. There is no cake carving required at all. I'm going to guide you through how to decorate him. Very, very simple to make and excellent for a beginner baker with a limited amount of equipment, as we only use basic shapes in order to create this. I have then added a small amount of edible snow just to create that overall perfect finish. Everything you need to know in detail, step by step. I really do hope I help you all again today, everyone. Let's make a start. For today's mini cake, I have used two 4-inch hemisphere pans. It creates the perfect shape and it's roughly the size of a Terry's chocolate orange when they are sandwiched together. This means that you can make lots of cake, churn all of these out, but also keep the costs down. Start by crumb coating one of the hemispheres. The reason I do this is because this is going to be flipped upside down and I need something for the fondant to actually stick to. I need something to hold and support my cake. So taking a simple sausage shape from fondant, place this directly onto some baking paper. I then fill the centre with some buttercream. This will act as a glue and obviously once refrigerated will set before applying the hemisphere cake that has just been crumb coated. This will support our cake and prevent it from moving from left to right, especially once it's set and it is covered with fondant. But this is what you are aiming to achieve. Simply fill the centre of your cake with a filling of your choice. Now, I add quite a lot of filling. It just makes the cake a bit taller, if you like. It's not a perfect round shape that way, and it's more gonk-like. But you can fill as much or as little as you want. I am using my buttercream recipe, and I will leave a link for that for you in the description below this video. Once you have filled it, simply smooth it out with a knife. You want it as level as possible, ready for the next layer of cake. I then add my other layer of cake. Now I did chill this, not the cake that I'm adding, the cake with the buttercream on first. It will help prevent bulging, and if you protect it with some cling film, the cake will not go dry. I then use my leftover buttercream from the piping bag, place it on the other part of the cake and give it a basic crumb coat. This is going to do two things. It will protect your cake from the air, but it's also going to give something for the fondant to actually stick to. Here I have 250 grams of fondant. I have sprinkled some icing sugar on my work surface. I gently push this down. Now the secret is to try and keep this first of all in a circular shape. And I'm also going to be using what are called spacers. So those pink things on either side of the fondant are exactly 5 millimeters thick, so that I can keep all of the fondant the same thickness. Simply roll this out and do your best to keep it in that circular shape. Gently place this directly over your cake. Now my cake has been in the fridge, so what I would recommend that you do, take the cake out of the fridge first for about 5 to 10 minutes. It will just help that buttercream go slightly softer, just to allow the fondant to stick to it. I then have some flexible smoothers, but these are not essential. You simply want to smooth out the pleats, go around the edge and cut off any excess. No fancy tools required. So using a cocktail stick, this is a little bit difficult to get on camera. This is just to give you an idea. You want to start from the base of the gong and add some indentations. So it doesn't really matter if you're not very good at covering things with fondant. A lot of that can be hidden once you start adding this simple effect. For our gonk's beard, you want some relatively thin fondant, and taking a heart cutter, I simply cut out a heart shape. If you do not have a heart cutter in your collection, this shape can easily be cut freehand. Using some edible glue and a fine brush, I then apply a thin layer directly to the heart. I am placing this on the opposite side where all of the icing sugar is, but I find that by applying it to the heart rather than the gonk, you won't end up with a sticky mess by adding glue in places where you don't actually need it. You want to directly glue this to your mini cake. Now it's a little bit more difficult for me because obviously it's all facing the camera, so I'm literally having to look at the camera to know where I'm placing it. Take your time because once it's on there, it's on there. Then, using a cocktail stick again, so no special equipment required, simply add details to the beard. Whilst the fondant's still soft, you can blend it in more and just give it more detail, but you want it very similar to what we did to the gonk's body. So for the gonk's feet, you want to start off with 2 small balls of red fondant. Can you see how I'm shaping it here with my hand? So I started by pointing it out first, and then you just push down at the front. That is the perfect shape for one of the shoes. I then simply repeat this with the other ball. This one can be a bit more tricky because you're aiming now to get both of these identical. The flat parts will be going under the cake, whilst the raised parts will be at the front of the cake. Okay, so I've added some edible glue to the feet, and this cake has been chilled. By doing this, it's allowed me to pick it up and place it directly onto our gonk's feet. Now, for the gonk's nose, I have coloured my fondant using chestnut by Colourflare. We've started with a simple ball shape and then just repeated the same process that we did for the gonk's shoes. Simply use some edible glue and place it directly on top of your mini cake. Okay, so for the gonk's arms, you will need 2 grey sausage shapes, and you want to start by simply placing a ball tool in the end of each of the arms. All you want to do now is take each of the balls and turn it into more of a teardrop shape. Use some edible glue and then you can apply it to that indentation, and then you need the ball tool to apply another indentation. For the gonk's gloves, simply start with a ball shape. Make sure the balls are the same size. You want to turn that into a teardrop shape and then finally just cut a little section in there and shape with your hands. This is then glued into place in that final indentation, which all helps to keep the fondant together and prevent the arms from coming to bits. So I have placed the glue directly onto each of the arms, and then you just want to take your time getting these into place. The fondant's lovely and soft, so make sure you push it onto that cake so it's firmly on there. Where the hand actually is, I just add another small amount of edible glue, but do be careful with red on white. If you accidentally add too much, it can bleed. Just to hold this until it's dry, I then just add a cocktail stick. This will be removed once the fondant has set. It is just to prevent the arm from moving whilst that edible glue dries. So for the heart, I am just using some red fondant. You want to turn it into a cone-like shape. It's very soft and very easy to work with. Once you are happy with the shape you have, gently bend over the top. We're going to secure this in place in a second. Keep on smoothing it out and then using a cocktail stick, just add a few details to the side. All you need now is a small ball of white fondant with some edible glue, and you can see how it just fits gently onto the hat and where the part is bending over. So once this edible glue is completely set, you do not need to worry about anything moving, even though we have only used fondant, because this ball is going to secure it all into place. I have added some edible glue directly to the top of my mini cake. The fondant is still soft on the hat. You want to push this down and shape it whilst it's on the top of your cake. Do your best to get it lovely and smooth and make sure it's all in the correct position. Take your time working with fondant. There is no rush as long as you are working with it. It's when it's left to set that it will go dry. For the rim of the hat, all you need is another sausage shape. I have already applied some edible glue, this time directly to the cake rather than the sausage shape. I will trim it off at the back, but it really is as simple as that. And you just go around the nose and just below the rim of the hat and all of the way round. Now this part is not essential, but if you do have a snowflake cutter in your collection, this one is by Click Sticks. I simply cut out a very small piece of fondant, remove it from the cutter. If you run your finger just over the back just to make sure that it's cut out correctly, and then you simply push it through. And I just stuck this directly onto my Gonk's hat. For the super easy edible snow, I just blended some wafer paper. This is perfect when it comes to humidity and keeping something in the fridge, because unlike icing sugar, it's not going to disappear once it's absorbing water. I have slowed this part down where I'm sprinkling it over the refrigerated cake. Now, obviously, once your cake is finished, it does not need to be in a fridge, but the fridge does help with stability, especially when a customer is collecting. But it also acts like a natural glue. Because this is a mini cake and there is a small amount of condensation, this wafer paper sticks to the Gonk beautifully. And remember what I said. The condensation, the water will not affect the consistency of the wafer paper, and it will look just as amazing the day you sprinkle it on as when it is collected. Now you will also have noticed that I've removed the cocktail sticks. The arms are staying in place, and there we have it. A very simple mini cake, very cost effective simply because it's smaller. You can make more of them. You're not using as much cake batter, as much buttercream, as much fondant, etc. Really, really popular at Christmas time. But that edible snow technique has definitely got to be one of my favourites. So if you do happen to have any wafer paper on hand and a blender, go for it. It's the most easy, the most effective edible snow I have ever made. Happy baking, everyone. I really do hope I have helped you again today, and I'll be back soon with an awful lot more new, completely free content.